The HOA that banned guns in its neighborhood has been defeated. Let's get into it. The HOA has officially backed down.
Tonight, a controversial firearm policy in Tradition is no longer being enforced. The Tradition Community Association has agreed now to stop enforcing the firearm ban in common areas.
According to Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier, the Homeowners Association in Tradition, Florida is no longer enforcing its controversial firearm ban after the state challenged the policy and threatened legal action.
Officials, his office arguing that the policy violates state law and warned that the association that it could face legal action if the rule remained in place.
Now, before we get into the details, this story is important for a much bigger reason than just one neighborhood in Florida. This is really about a question that gun owners across the country have been asking for years. Can a homeowners association simply decide that your constitutional rights stop at the entrance of the neighborhood? And that's the issue at the center of this fight. And Florida Attorney General just sent a pretty strong message about where the state stands. For those that may have missed my previous video, here is a very quick recap. Last month, the Homeowners Association governing the Tradition community adopted a policy that prohibited residents from carrying firearms in common areas. The restriction applied to both open carry and concealed carry. In other words, if you were legally carrying a firearm under Florida law, the HOA was essentially saying that you could not carry it while using certain parts of your very own community. That move immediately generated controversy.
The move comes after residents in the Tradition community spoke out against a new rule banning guns, even for people with concealed carry licenses.
The dispute started after residents were told that they were no longer allowed to carry guns openly or concealed in the community's shared spaces.
There were several that argued that the HOA was attempting to create rules that directly conflicted with state law and infringed on the rights of law-abiding residents. It didn't take long for Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier, however you say that word, to get involved. His office challenged the policy and argued that the ban was unlawful. State officials warned the association that it could face legal consequences if the rule wasn't rescinded. And that set up a showdown between the state government and the HOA. On Wednesday evening, Uthmeier announced that the Homeowners Association has agreed to stop enforcing that firearm ban. In a statement posted online, he said the association had agreed to abandon what he described as an unlawful firearm ban in common areas. He also indicated that his office is continuing to work toward making sure the policy change becomes permanent.
Uthmeier says his office will keep working with the association to make sure the change stays in place and follows Florida law.
And that is a very important detail. The Attorney General isn't simply celebrating the fact that the enforcement has stopped. He's signaling that the state wants assurance that the ban won't simply reappear later under a different name or through a slightly modified policy. And that is where this story becomes much larger than just the HOA. If the state allows a local association to restrict rights that are otherwise protected under state law, what precedent does that create for other communities, other states all across America? That is the bigger issue. And at the same time, not everybody living in the community is happy about the outcome. Several residents spoke publicly about the decision, and their reactions show just how divided opinions can be on this issue. One resident said she simply just doesn't agree with allowing firearms to be carried throughout the community and expressed concern about people walking around while armed. Get used to it, sister. Another resident said that he simply felt safer with a firearm ban in place. Others echoed similar concerns, arguing that while they may not object to gun ownership inside the home, they don't believe firearms should be carried throughout neighborhood common areas. That's the entire point. And whether you agree with those residents or not, and I certainly do not, it's important to understand where they're coming from. For many people, firearms represent security and self-defense.
I don't feel like they have the right to deny people the ability to carry their gun. There is a law that allows people to conceal or open carry at this point.
For others, firearms create anxiety and concern. And the challenge comes when those two viewpoints collide in the same community. And that's exactly what happened here. Some residents viewed the HOA's policy as a reasonable safety measure. Others viewed it as an attack on constitutional rights. And that's exactly what it was. Make no mistake about that. And ultimately, Florida Attorney General made it clear that the state believes the HOA crossed a legal line. Another interesting comment came from a resident who said he simply wants whatever rules are adopted to be applied consistently. That might be one of the very few points that I believe everybody can agree on. People want clear rules because if you remember correctly, the HOA would not respond to any phone calls or anything as all the residents trying to reach out. People want to know what the law is, and they could not even do that. And they don't want conflicting regulations that leave residents wondering whether they can exercise a legal right in one location but not another. Now, as of this recording, the Homeowners Association has not publicly responded to the Attorney General's latest announcement. Who would have thought? Kind of see a trend here. Reports indicate that requests for comment were made, but no public response has been received. And that means there are still some unanswered questions here. Will the HOA formally repeal the policy? Will there be additional legal action? Could this dispute end up influencing how other homeowner associations approach firearm regulations in the future? Those questions remain open. What we do know is that this situation has become a high-profile example of the ongoing tension between local governing bodies and constitutional rights. And regardless of where you stand on firearms, this case raises an important issue. How much authority should a homeowners association have? Should an HOA be allowed to create rules that affect the exercise of constitutional rights, or should those rights remain protected regardless of what a neighborhood board wants? That's the debate that Florida is having right now. And based on the Attorney General's actions, it appears the state is taking the position that an HOA cannot simply override state firearm protections because it just disagrees with them. So for now, the firearm ban is no longer being enforced. The Attorney General is claiming victory, and the HOA appears to have backed away from the policy. Actually, they just completely disappeared, it seems like. As more information becomes available, and if the HOA decides to respond publicly or take further action, I'll be sure to bring the latest updates right to your screen. In the meantime, I want to hear from you. Do you think that Florida made the right call in stepping in? Should homeowners associations have the authority to restrict firearm carry in common areas? Or do you believe constitutional rights should remain protected regardless of HOA policies? I want you to drop your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you appreciate staying informed about the latest Second Amendment news, legal battles, and firearm legislation from around the country, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss any future updates. And as always, we'll see you later.